K98Talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98Talk.com.
We need to tell the truth. The truth is, Washington is corrupt.
The phony scandals.
You like your current insurance, you keep that insurance. Period. End of story.
Benghazi, Benghazi, Benghazi.
Dude, this was like 2 years ago.
I've got a pen and I've got a phone.
Because if you got a business, that you didn't build that.
Defend the Constitution. All of it.
But freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it.
Your weekly 60-minute slice of common sense conservatism and ADHD is about to begin. Broadcasting from the Kensington Place studios, it's Jason DeWilkins, and it's time for According to Me.
From the Kensington Place studios, this is According to Me, Barack Obama and John Boehner's second most hated internet radio program, the 2-hour show that lasts 60 minutes. You are listening, of course, to the 4-hour Politainment Hour. Again, it's 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. on the West Coast, and if you're in the middle there, you could figure it out. I'm not going to break it down for you, but 4 hours coming your way of absolute fun Politainment goodness, and I am the crappy opening band for Politabunny, who's on after me. But thanks for being here, guys. Greatly appreciate you being here. A lot of you are already in the chat room. We're going to get into that here in a second, but according to me, militia members, it's time to mount up. But, let's get into propers really quick. Hammer.
We're about to break them off something proper.
Hey, just so you know.
I am on Twitter. In fact, I could Twitter right now.
Well, I'm not going to Twitter right now. But you are going to Twitter right now, in fact. But before we get into that, just wanted to let you know you can follow, of course, the According to Me show on Twitter at ATM_show. You can also follow a Politainment on Twitter at Politainment. I'm not spelling it for you. Figure it out. But again, that is ATM_SHOW. Where you get a slice of common sense, conservatism, and ADHD in 140 characters or less. And again, like us on Politainment, a lot of cool stuff that we're doing on there. And we love to chat back and forth with the audience. And speaking of chatting back and forth with the audience, here's what we're going to do. 4-hour live like we did last week. We have a hashtag that we do starting with my show going all the way through midnight through the Stafford Voice. And that is getting to hear from you. We read your tweets live on the air. And this one's really, really simple. Because it's kind of like the match game, So, you're going to tweet at us using the hashtag 4-hour live. And here's what we want to know. Barack Obama was not in Paris on Sunday because he was fill in the blank. Let your creativity go wild, folks. We want to hear from you. We'll be reading those throughout the program. And,
Stephanie just wrote on my wall.
Oh, yeah? What'd she say?
She says, get your wrinkly ass down to bingo this Thursday, biatch.
Well, don't write that on my wall, but you can like the Facebook page of According to Me. Just simply go to facebook.com/According to Me show. Click like. Also, like the Politainment page as well, where we're sharing all types of information back and forth. You really get a chance to chat with you on there. And just so you know, if you send me requests to play games on Facebook,
I'd unfriend you. That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
No, that's exactly how it's supposed to work when you do that. And by the way, as far as other social media platforms like Instagram or Tumblr.
Because I'm too old to waste my time.
Yeah, I don't do that stuff. I have no interest. I'm too old for it, quite frankly. And if this happens to be you,
I hate social media.
Send me an email at jason@politainment.net. Also, if you haven't already, join me in the 405 chat room, 405media.com. Just click on chat on the right side of the page. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of you already in the chat room joining me this evening, and we really, really appreciate that. Now, let's get into a handful of subjects we're going to talk about here on the program. We're going to talk about the complete BS story of the week. We're going to talk about why it's okay to not be offended as long as you're making money on the deal. We'll talk about that here later on in the program. But we're going to start off the show talking about a subject that many are talking about, but I think having a different opinion on. And again, far be it for me to zig when people zag. And here's what it comes down to. You have the situation that happened in Paris last week. And most of the talk is in regards to, why wasn't the president there? Why wasn't he in Paris? Look at all these leaders who were there. It's crazy. Let's find out why he wasn't there. And the only reason why I feel it's funny to ask you why he wasn't there on the 4-hour live question is because let's have fun with it. Because the reality is, who cares why he wasn't there? And I'll get into that here in a second. But we also shouldn't be surprised at the fact that he wasn't there. Let me be more specific. How does that surprise anybody? We're going to get into that. But you saw Josh Earnest squirm like a worm. Trying to defend. See, what happened was to the media, and there's no answer for it. This we know. And he didn't attend the rally. Look at all the other leaders. I mean, can you explain why he wasn't there? And my reflection on the tragedy that happened in Paris last week, again, differs from what many other people may say about it. And the reason why I think it's a little different is this, is when you look at people being killed for a cartoon, I completely understand why people are outraged by that, especially here in America, because we cloak ourselves under the cloak of free speech, First Amendment, right? But we're not talking about America here. We're talking about France. We're talking about our allies in other countries. But I have news for you, folks. This wasn't an attack on free speech. It just wasn't. This, instead, was in their mind an attack on blasphemy. And there's a big distinction there. There's a big difference. And that's why when we look at the rally, when we look at the people locking arms and walking hand in hand, and again, I'm not knocking it. I think it's a great symbolism of people being tired and fed up with this bullcrap. I completely understand. When you have people locking arms and saying, look, I'm against these savage sand people like you are, all for it. Again, hear me out here. What I'm saying is, for every Benjamin Netanyahu who was there, which, by the way, that guy has balls of steel. You also have people there from Jordan. You have people from the United Arab Emirates. You have leaders from Algeria, leaders from Egypt. And so it really becomes a great hypocrite march, quite frankly. And it's a lot like the conversation and the argument I've had with a lot of folks in regards to the Cuba situation that we've recently have done under this president. And again, we as conservatives typically have a knee-jerk reaction. Anything the president does sucks. And that's true 95% of the time. Actually, probably more than 95, probably like 98. But every once in a while, he'll do something that makes sense. It's very, 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 very rare. And I simply don't understand the outrage over having a conversation and trade with Cuba. And I understand why people are concerned. They're like, look, Cuba, are you kidding me? They're a communist country. They're 90 miles away from frickin' the United States, of course. Screw those people. I get it. I totally get it. But here is why I think it's completely hypocritical to have that stance and then be okay with trading with China and trading with Saudi Arabia and trading with half of the dirtbag countries in the Middle East who want us dead. Hello. That's cool? You're fine with that? Be consistent. That's all I'm saying. Now, you want to have a conversation about not doing trade with people who try to plot the destruction of the United States. Let's have that conversation. But damn it, there's a lot of people who won't be trading with after that, and I hope you're okay with that. Just say it. Have the convo. But you can't pick. I just don't think it makes sense to pick and choose who we trade with, who we don't trade with. Based on, well, I mean, we've hated those bastards for 50 years. Why stop now? Okay, then let's do that across the board then. If not, we're hypocrites. And where I'm going with that is if you look at this march, you look at I mentioned Jordan. You have the leader of Jordan there. Jordan prohibits blasphemy. And what is blasphemy in Jordan? Well, you'll never guess. It's slandering the Prophet Muhammad. Meaning, as a citizen in the country of Jordan, if I say something bad about Muhammad, I am tried in a Sharia court. Again, this was an attack on blasphemy. These animals, these terrorists, these people who did what they did in Paris, didn't do that because they have an issue with a Paris magazine per se, as much as they have an issue with somebody who commits blasphemy against the Prophet Muhammad, and they will hold them accountable because the Great One says so. Bottom line. And so when Jordan's there locking arms with the French, but then they try people in their own country for committing blasphemy for doing the same damn thing. Granted, they don't kill you, but still. United Arab Emirates, civil court, Sharia court. There was a case, and by the way, there's a great article on this by J.C. Greggs on thefederalist.com. Absolutely great article, laying this all out. Tremendous job. And you have a court case. 3 Filipinos who were working in the United Arab Emirates tore out a piece of the Quran and scribbled like a phone number on it. They were caught doing it. They were kicked out of the country immediately. No questions asked. Get out of here. You defamed the Prophet Muhammad. Again, I understand it didn't cost them their lives. I know there's a difference, but hear me out. Algeria. You slander the Prophet Muhammad, 5 years in prison, minimum, period. Now, what is slandering the Prophet Muhammad? Whatever they think is slandering the Prophet Muhammad. It's Sharia law. That's what it is. And that's bad. So you can't do that. Go to jail or die. Egypt being there. That was my favorite one. Remember the 2012 film? You know, the film that started the crazy outrage in Benghazi? The Innocence of Muslims film? We had 12 Egyptians in that film. They were put to death. Excuse me, not 12, 7. Put to death. Hello. What do we do in our country? Well, we kill people for them insulting Prophet Muhammad. But let's go to Paris in March and be outraged that people kill people over Muhammad. What the hell's the difference? My goodness. And when you look at the president overall, let's just look at it from this standpoint. It's not laziness. But silence is deafening to our allies, especially. And when the president says things like, we are standing with our friends in France. They've been a great ally, original ally, and we got their back. Look at Israel. Look how much we got their back. Exactly. You can say it all you want. It's lip service, Mr. President. Action speaks louder than words. So him being there or him saying anything doesn't matter. Instead, he sits on the sidelines on purpose because you wouldn't want to offend the radical extremists. You wouldn't want to offend the Muslims, would you? No, we don't want to do that. Because I think the way the president looks at it when it comes to, I'm not saying he condones the death of anybody. He's not cheerleading and going, oh yeah, they got what they deserved. But in a way, he is. See, I compare it to this. Anybody that you read in the news who has like a huge anaconda or boa constrictor snake that they have as a pet, and it's like a 15-foot snake that they have in their frickin' living room, and then you get these news stories of, and it's usually always in Florida, man attacked by pet snake, loses his limb or dies or whatever the hell it is. And I read these articles, I see them, and my first reaction is, well, it serves your dumbass right for having a 15-foot poisonous and deadly snake in your living room, jackass. And I think that's how the president feels about what happened in Paris. Hey, look, I'm not saying you should have died, but the reality is when you keep poking the hornet's nest by insulting the Prophet Muhammad, that sucks. But guess what? Sorry, man. Probably shouldn't have done that. Now, that's ridiculous to say that. But don't think for a second. He doesn't think that way. So it shouldn't surprise anybody they sat on the sidelines. Doesn't surprise me whatsoever. But we do want to hear from you in regards to, let's just have fun with it. Where was the dude Sunday? He was sitting on the sidelines on purpose. Because, again, if he wanted to be there, maybe he didn't want to go. Joe Biden could have went there. John Kerry could have went there. No one. What the hell's Joe Biden doing? Nothing. No one goes on purpose. Make no mistake about it. Silence is deafening, folks. Coming up next. It's not offensive if you pay a bunch of money or you make a bunch of money on the deal. Then it's cool. Don't worry about it. We're going to talk about that next and more here on According to Me.
You're on the 405.
Where it begins, I can't pretend to know when I saved you from becoming a coat. We made it through spring and Ramadan in the summer. I got you in trade for chickpeas and goat. Hands touching hooves, reaching out, touching me, touching you. My sheep Caroline, my 3 wives never felt so good.
So good, so good, so good.
Free Palestine. I know together that we could, but now I look at my cave and it doesn't seem so lonely. I laid out a blanket for us two. And in your herd, you proudly say I'm your owner. We have a love that's pure and true. Warm, your wool is warm. Reaching out, touching me, touching you. My sheep Caroline, my 3 wives never felt so good.
So good, so good, so good.
Free Palestine. I know together that we could. My sheep Caroline, my 3 wives never felt so good.
So good, so good, so good.
My sheep Caroline, I know together that we could.
Off the grid.
And he's also the only person I've ever seen that could write, "My dog just rolled over" on Facebook and get like 62 likes.
I'm also, just a correction, I'm the best looking person in social media too.
Off the Grid with Matt Hochman and Beckett Adams.
You have men in the United States Army running for cover and hoping the police show up.
You know, the base is a soft target that's filled with brave Americans, but they got their hands tied.
I'm sure the jihadists completely consider it a soft target. It's like a shopping mall, or like you said, a school. It's probably worse than a shopping mall, because at least here in Arizona, you're allowed to carry.
In several of these shootings, Jared Lautner in Arizona, the Sandy Hook shooting, a number of these shootings always involve somebody who was desperately unhealthy in the head, but for some reason, the argument always turns into to get away from my gun. What can we do to maybe help people like this?
New day, same time. Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Only on the 405media.com.
You're on the 405.
Coming soon to the 405 Radio.
Here come the Spa Dolphins.
I sold my food stamp money for Doritos and wheat.
I call them the Mary-Kate and Ashley of outrage.
Bras are completely racist. End all bras.
A show that's different from those that aren't so different. Real, serious nonsense. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on the 405 Radio.
Your powers combined, I am Captain Planet.
If I only would have known that his show was going to be on there, I would have never invented the internet. According to me.
Welcome back, folks, to According to Me. So, one thing real quick. I just wanted to let you in on this. Commercial breaks here on Politainment isn't just, all right, we're going to hear a promo from a show, we're going to hear a bunch of commercials we probably don't want to hear, but those commercials are what kind of keep the lights on, so we kind of should listen to them, kind of don't. We sprinkle in some commercials and sponsors and promos and all that stuff, but you know what? We have some fun times during those commercial breaks, so never walk away for one damn minute during the 4-hour Politainment Hour. That's what I'm going to tell you, because if you did, you missed Sheep Caroline. And let me just say, that song for the rest of your life will now be Sheep Caroline. And you'll go, bah, during the chorus. But as you can see, I guess I'm a target for blasphemy, correct? And if you listen to the show last week, I have so many skits that just poke fun of these savage sand people. I don't really care. But anyway, again, hashtag 4-Hour Live. Let us know where Obama was on Sunday. We want to hear from you. After Sunday, speaking of Sunday, the next day was an interesting day for me, because I'm a sports fan, by the way, and we do talk sports every once in a while here, and According to Me, especially if we can tie them in to politics or pop culture or something else that's going on. And we certainly can this week, because it's something I've wanted to discuss for a while, and we're going to do just that. And if you on Monday watched the national championship game in college football like I did, it was a pretty surprising outcome. I mean, you had Oregon beat I thought Oregon was going to be Ohio State. Instead, it ended up being the other way around by a significant margin. I think it was 42-20. So the final score. I mean, Ohio State just looked on a different level than Oregon. Great game. Incredible ratings, by the way. For those people who defend the BCS, what are you doing? I mean, it was clearly that this worked. They should expand it to more teams, but it's a whole other episode, a whole other conversation we'll have. But really, it didn't really matter to me who won between Oregon and Ohio State. I didn't really care. I just wanted to watch a good game, which you kind of sort of got. Going into the 4-team playoff, I was going against anybody that was playing Florida State. I didn't care who it was. It could have been East McGillicuddy State versus Florida State. Go East McGillicuddy State all day long. And here's why. I mean, there's several reasons why. I mean, first of all, you have the head coach, Jimbo Fisher, who's just a rectum. You have Jameis Winston, the quarterback, who's even a bigger rectum. But it goes deeper than that. It's not just current. It's the thing that drives me nuts about the Florida State Seminoles. But in a way, I kind of respect them for one particular thing. And I'll get into that here in a second. But I'm a Bears fan. I'm a lifelong Bears fan. I know. I'm a glutton for punishment. I also, my second favorite team, I've adopted a second favorite team. A lot of you do this, right? A lot of you are like, well, if my favorite team's not in it, I want this team to win, right? That's me too now. It's just recent. Most people think this is blasphemy. You can't have two teams. I kind of sort of can, and I'll explain why. And by the way, it was a really bad season for me this year, because my second favorite team as of 2 years ago has become the Washington Redskins, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the product of football they put on the field. Instead, it has to do with the owner of the team continually flipping off people who demand #because racism to change the team name. He simply won't do it, and I got to respect him for that. And that's why I kind of root for them in the background when my Bears aren't playing. And the thing is, when you talk about the Redskins name, which I'll get into that here first, you look at this stupid pattern that happens around once a year involving usually elected officials. But certainly, all throughout the years, for several years, the Washington Redskins and a lot of defiant college teams and Indian or Native American, quote-unquote, PC, names for mascots for sports teams and so on and so forth. You look at that particular situation and you look at how the most outraged people, 9 out of 10 times, are not Native Americans, are not other minorities. It's guilty white people. It is guilty white people who, for some reason, feel as if I have white privilege, and so therefore I'm guilty by birth, and so I must undo the wrongs of the past, and I must make sure that I try to show other minorities and other walks of life that I'm on their side. These white people are crazy. And the guilty white people are the worst. They're the absolute worst. They're the ones who will, if you remember the news story last year at Buffalo Wild Wings, there was a particular town who's like, hey, after a certain, it was at Bar Louie, I'm sorry. Hey, after a certain time, we don't want you wearing sports jerseys or hats or things of that nature. And the first reaction from guilty white people is, oh, what a racist law. Oh my God, it's so racist. Like, clearly, black people wear sports hats and also wear, like, jerseys and things. White people don't wear those. Black people. You may as well say no black people can come to Bar Louie. Oh, my God. And it's just like, so apparently what you wear, the clothing you wear, is racist now. It's guilty white people who typically go out of their way to make sure that everyone isn't upset by anything. Which is why I've said for quite some time, the Washington Redskins should just simply change their name to the Washington Fat White Christians. Because if they do that, no one's offended. There are 3 types of people you can make fun of in America and no one cares. It's white people, it's Christians, and it's fat people. And if you put all of them in there, they're fair game. You can say whatever you want. In fact, people would buy t-shirts and rock out the Washington Fat White Christians all day. They would wear that like crazy. Redskins, totally offensive. And where I'm going with this is every time I watch Florida State on TV, I see Chief Osceola. I see him riding a horse renegade. I see him flying with a flaming spear as he goes, ah, and goes to the middle of the field and plants the spear, and 80,000 morons down in Florida cheer and celebrate it. People around the country celebrate it, and that somehow isn't offensive. But the Washington Redskins is. Chanting, oh, every time you get a flippin' first down. That apparently doesn't offend anybody. That's fine. That's fair game. Washington Redskins, racist! So I guess if the word skin is involved in any sort of connotation, it's racist. Just mentioning the word skin, racist. Doesn't matter. Forget what the actual symbolism is. Forget what the actions of the university would be. That's fine. And here's why it's fine. See, the smart people of Florida State, but just as importantly, the smart people of the Seminole Tribal Council. Because, see, the Seminole tribe's based out of Oklahoma, not Florida. But the Seminole Tribal Council is based out of Florida. And see, here's how it works. It's a page taken right out of the Rainbow Push Coalition, Jesse Jackson race hustling manual. That's what it is. It is, we're offended by something, but I'll tell you what, if you make it lucrative for us or pay us money, we'll no longer be offended. It's cool. And this is the same tactic that Jesse Jackson's been doing for decades, right? I'm going to go to Sony, and I'm going to say, Sony, I'm deeply offended, and you got to do something. And I'm going to make sure we boycott Sony. And then Sony goes, no, No. Jesse Jackson, no, seriously. These emails were just, it's a misunderstanding. We're going to have diversity training. We love black people. We totally love all races and creeds. We're going to have like a Twitter hashtag that says Sony loves minorities. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And here's millions of dollars. Could you leave us alone? Oh, yeah, that's fine. That's what happens. This situation's really not that different. Because here's what it is. It's a business. Because, see, Florida State, Seminoles, the brand, the name, it draws people to Florida. It draws people to Tallahassee. Well, guess who happens to own most of the casinos in and around the area of campus? That would be the Seminole Tribal Council. And so, business is good, baby. And so the Seminole name, okay, yeah, it's probably not in the best taste, but, because of the popularity of Florida State football, yes, it has a name, whatever. We just bought a $968 million casino a couple years ago, so it's all good. You know what? I'll tell you what. As long as business keeps coming in, and we keep making a bunch of money on the casinos, and you, every once in a while, give like a scholarship to like somebody in the Seminole tribe to, make it seem like it's all on the up and up, it's all good. You can use Seminoles all you want to. And what's funny about that is in 2005, the Fighting Illini of Illinois and the North Dakota Fighting Sioux, see, the difference is the University of Illinois and the University of North Dakota didn't kiss the rear end of the tribes. And had they done that, then they'd probably still have their name, but they didn't, and so they lost it. But see, Florida State was smart enough to go, see, here's what we'll do, is we'll make our football brand, and we'll also give a lot of money to the local Consul tribe, and then they can open casinos with it, and then they can make even more money, and it'll just be this really sweet deal. What do you say? Let's look the other way and not call it offensive. Huh? What do you think? And that's the plan. And it's been going on for years, and no one seems to care. To me, it's laughable. It's absolutely laughable that there is a complete level of hypocrisy there. And here on According to Me, I'm not afraid to talk race because I think it's something we need to do as a country. The thing is, we don't have those conversations involving race at all. And then everyone's butthurt and offended by everything. And I think the more racists talk, the more racists conversate with each other, the more you get to understand that about all of us think and feel the same way about most things, really. But it's the quote-unquote so-called leaders of certain minority groups that apparently think that they speak for the rest of the people. And sadly, most of the people in those groups go, yeah, that's cool. I mean, if Al's cool with it, I guess I'm okay. See, that's the problem. We need to have those conversations. And I don't mind calling out hypocrisy when I see it. And the fact that people don't seem to have any issue with Florida State, including guilty white people. Why aren't guilty white people freaking out over Florida State? Every once in a while you'll see an article going, well, it's a bad name and it's pretty offensive, but Indians are making, Native Americans, sorry, hashtag racist. Native Americans are making lots of money off of this, and so, hey, it serves white people right. In the end, the Native Americans are laughing to the bank. Dumb white people. The Washington Redskins truly do need our support. Because you have the trademark being removed, and if you don't give a flip about football, at least look deep enough into the issue to understand how you can support a team that isn't bowing to political correctness. I'm sorry, they're just not. And I guess kudos to Florida State, they're not either. The difference is they're just paying people a lot of money. And see, Dan Snyder, the Washington Redskins owner, isn't paying a lot of people a lot of money, and so therefore, let's get him. Make him pay! I guess if you redistribute wealth, then it's cool. We're no longer offended. Coming up next, we're going to talk about an absolute BS story. It's one of the most laughably awful stories I've ever heard in my entire life, but it is entertaining. That, plus the asshat of the week and more. Stick around. We'll be back.
K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com.
Kentucky's favorite son, Mitch McConnell, wants you to know he is a proud conservative American. Such a patriot, he requested to have his American flag lapel pin tripled in size. So when you see him in person or on camera, you know how patriotic he really is. God Bless the USA by Lee Greenwood is his ringtone on his iPhone. In fact, Mitch McConnell will only wear socks that are red, white, or blue. And in case you're wondering, size 11. And just like you and me, he puts them patriotic socks on one at a time. Slides them into a pair of Kentucky-made cowboy boots, hops in his F-150 and heads down to the local butcher shop just like you and me. In fact, for the brave men and women fighting for our freedom, Mitch McConnell watches their children on the weekend. It's the least he can do. And when it comes down to hash browns or American fries, well, that's not even a question for Mitch now, is it? After brushing his teeth, his mouthwash is a shot of Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, because only liberals use Listerine. Mitch McConnell, a real man, a real American, a real Kentucky conservative. Mitch McConnell, just like me, just like y'all.
We're gonna spread happiness. We're gonna spread freedom. Obama's gonna change it. Obama's gonna lead 'em.
So let me be clear.
You didn't build that.
Everything he's done is clean as a whistle. He's never not only broken any law, he's never done anything wrong. He's the perfect father, the perfect husband, the perfect American.
Hey y'all, this is Sam Janney, or the Bunny as many of you know me by, your friendly neighborhood bad girl of conservatism. Here to talk to you about my show. I'll talk about conservative issues, my top 10 douchebags of the week, and have some pretty badass conservative guests on the show. All that, plus me, your resident bunny with a chainsaw.
Coming soon to the 405 radio, it's Unapologetically Bunny. Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Oh,
right
guess
here.
what day it is?
The Hump Day News Report.
Welcome to the Hump Day News Report. It's Wednesday, 10 p.m. My co-host here is...
It's me. This is Tammy Jackson.
You got spunk.
My good friend, Jeff Dunitz.
Hi, folks. It's Jeff.
Hump Day, not just because it's Wednesday, but because that's what the progressives are doing to the country.
Guest tonight, conservative blogger Caleb Howe.
I look so homeless, someone gave me change on the street when I was in Detroit.
The Hump Day News Report, live Wednesdays, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific, only on the 405media.com.
There are a lot of bad actors coming across there. There probably are some Islamic State people in the United States right now.
It's Hump Day. That's one of the most important things that can come out of this, meaning our conflict with ISIS, is that people understand the difference between real Islam and radical Islam.
They don't trust this country.
You're on the 405.
He's the honey badger of internet radio.
Oh, the honey badgers are just crazy.
According to me.
Ew, what's that in its mouth? Mouth.
Welcome back, folks, to According to Me. So again, last chance, last call, at least for according to me. But if I don't get to them all this evening, it's fine. We got 3 more hours of goodness. Again, you have Sam Janney, the Plin Bunny yourself on after me at 9 o'clock. You also have Real Serious Nonsense at 10 o'clock. And let me tell you, folks, Plin Bunny has Holly Fisher on the show. Maybe you've heard of her. Just throwing that out there. She's going to be on joining Bunny here in just a little while. You also have Red Steezy. It's Red Steez, I know, but whatever. Red Steve's going to be joining Real Serious Nonsense, which is a pretty big deal. And then you got the Stafford voice. That dude is wound up, ready to go. And I'm just going to tell you, maybe he didn't want me to tell you this, but I know Daniel had a rough day. He did. So I can't wait to hear his show. He's going to give you a preview of what the State of the Union is going to be. Getting ready for it, getting prepared, which I don't want to steal his thunder because I don't know what he's going to talk about on the show. But if you want to get prepared for the State of the Union, you get several buckets around you for vomit. I recommend you don't eat dinner. There's a lot of things you probably shouldn't do before the State of the Union. But one thing I know I'll be doing during the State of the Union, and join me on the State of the Union night. I'll actually be live tweeting during the State of the Union. It just so happened to be at this point last time, during last year's State of the Union, I actually got my Twitter account removed because I wasn't so nice. So if that sounds like your plan for for during the State of the Union, if that sounds like your idea of a good time, then you should follow me on Twitter at ATM_SHOW and let the fireworks begin, y'all. But anyway, every once in a while, there's a news article that comes out that makes me just yell at it because it's ridiculous. It's absurd. It's the same level of thought of the melting of the polar ice caps. So if we don't do something now, they're going to melt in approximately 10 minutes. By the end of this show, we'll all be underwater, you see. And then you have these news articles that say all of these things, and they're all complete bullcrap. But it's like, well, scientific studies are showing X. And, well, scientific studies are bullcrap when what you're trying to say is bullcrap. 4 out of 5 dentists agree. Whatever, it's all BS. And speaking of BS, here is this week's story. This complete line of BS.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
Complete line of bullshit! So I was reading this online, and I'm telling you folks, it's... Now I'm going to let you know a little secret. I'm a married man. I've been married for, my wife's going to kill me, 2003, so 12 years this March, so pretty soon. So I think it's 12 years, isn't it? Oh, shoot. Yeah, it is. Anyway. And I don't know about you, but when it comes to sleeping, I'm the kind of guy, I love my wife, okay? My wife loves me. And I know every couple's different when they're in bed, and don't try to connect the dots. Hear me out. You sit there and you lay in bed, and I know many couples will snuggle, or they'll be like holding each other really close, really. And I love my wife, and she loves me, but you know what? I want to go to sleep. So I'm going to turn this way. You're going to turn this way. We're going to go to bed. Sorry. That's just how it works. I love you, but I want to go to sleep. And there is an article that came out, and it just makes me just laugh hysterically. Because, again, this is based on scientific information, and psychologists have studied this. And here is what they've determined, that your sleeping patterns show a lot about your relationship. And it's the worst article I've ever seen in my entire life. And they give different categories of people in sleeping. And like, so for example, if you're detached, but you're in contact. So in other words, if you're sleeping opposite one another, but let's say a foot overlaps each other, well, that means that it signifies there's a desire to have a degree of autonomy while still wishing to be in a good relationship. I want to be separate but together. What kind of absolute stupid gobbledygook is that? And then you have the mutual embrace, and that's like the typical classic embrace. But here's what this symbolizes. I just want you to know, again, scientific proof. This is what this means. The male will take on the protective attitude, providing warmth, comfort, and love. And in turn, the woman will nestle underneath this welcoming gesture. Oh, what a load of crap. And then, I know Paul's listening to this show. The spoon, which happens to be his favorite position to sleep in. But here's what the spoon symbolizes in one's relationship. The outsider takes on the role of providing security, as if a shield has been made from his or her own body. The one who's in the embrace is likely to be the partner who is the most fragile and requires attention. And then there's the way that my wife and I sleep, which is you face this way, I face this way, love ya, good night, going to sleep. Sorry. But don't look too far into that. You may think that this is a couple that's distraught. You may think that this is a couple that aren't getting along, that have relationship issues, but you would be wrong. Because, see, it signifies that each is claiming his or her own space. This is a powerful statement of individuality. And their interests are likely to be at odds, as well as their views of the meaning of life and how each will interpret similar events. However, it is also seen that sleeping arrangements like this display that each has found their sense of uniqueness of the other partner, of his or her ideas. So I guess we figured it out, folks. If you sleep away from your significant other in bed, if you are back to back or facing the opposite direction of each other and you have no contact, you are strong individuals, and there's some issues there, but it's okay because you're a strong person. That is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard in my entire life. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. It's just terrible. Absolutely terrible. So, without any further ado, let's go into your 4-hour live tweets that you've given us. Again, the question was, on Sunday, he wasn't in Paris. Where was Barack Obama? He was blank. Fill in the blank. We got some tweets from you guys. And actually, our good friend Hutch is in the room. And he mentioned that he was in the back of a limo, which could be. That very well could be the case. He was just there already. We got MRJA, MRJA USA, who we all know, of course, a good friend of the 405. And on the 405 also said he already made plans for a dog barbecue. There's a lot of dog barbecue references in this. In fact, hold on, let me find it here. I know that Angie made reference to the fact that the president went to Sonic and got a doggy and was really upset that he didn't get a Yorkie instead of a hot dog from Sonic. You get it. And also was made mention of the fact that Joe Biden and Barack Obama actually attended the newest Kevin Hart film. And that's why they weren't able to be in Paris. But great stuff that's out there. So thanks for sharing those with me, tweeting them at me again. Hashtag 4HourLive. Where was the president on Sunday? A lot of tweets about the Sheep Caroline song, so that's certainly do appreciate it. And again, give us your tweets, including manspreading. I guess that was also somewhere where Barack Obama was what he was more involved in on Sunday was that. We're going to read. Folks, keep them coming again throughout the block, throughout the shows this evening, again on the 4-Hour Politainment Hour. Make sure that you keep them coming to us. One other thing really quick I wanted to touch on, which was kind of a feel-good story before we go into the Ass Hat of the Week. And we have a story that, again, I want to try to focus on some of these things a little bit more on the show. Because I truly believe that garbage in is garbage out. And when you consume yourself with crap all the time, you're going to feel like crap, both, in what you eat and certainly what you read, what you consume. So many people are quick to say, oh, you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't eat that, that's bad, that's going to make you feel like this. But when it comes to the media and the things you consume, that's fine. Who cares? That doesn't have an impact either. BS. It certainly does. And we're going to share that story with you because I think it's a good story to hear. And that is, and I rip on her a lot because I think, it's just kind of fun too. But when you see some of the things, and I want to talk about this on last week's show, and I know we're way past Christmas here, and yes, I said Christmas here on According to Me. When you look at the things, and it's a story that's been out there a little bit, and so I'm not saying you probably have heard of this, but I still want to mention it for a particular reason because I think it's very unique. When you see what Taylor Swift did for her fans during Christmas, during Hanukkah, it's probably one of the more sincere things I've ever seen an artist do. And so many people are very quick to say, I love my fans, you guys are the best. But in the end, do they really mean that? Do they show that? How often do people take their fans for granted? Like crazy. And when you look at what Taylor Swift did, and just to give you the story if you haven't heard, and it's kind of creepy in a way, because she would have people who would post things on her Taylor Swift Facebook page, and she would randomly pick them. And what she called Taylorking, which is she would pick them and then she would read on their profile things about them, their interests, pictures maybe they have that are posted, things like that. And then she went Christmas shopping or Hanukkah shopping or whatever, holiday you celebrate, and bought gifts that were catered to the interests that she was able to identify on Facebook of her fans, and shipped them directly to them, wrapped all the packages herself, wrote all the notes herself. And again, maybe it's a publicity stunt, maybe it's not, but I want you to tell me somebody else who's done something like that. And, for as much crap as we give some celebrities, and most of the time we should, when you see them doing something involving some level of decency, you need to recognize it, you need to celebrate it. And, when you deliver presents to a family of people yourself, and you're Taylor frickin' Swift, it's kind of a big deal. And imagine the impact that those people had, or I should say imagine the impact that Taylor Swift had on those people for the rest of their lives. They're going to remember that stuff. Just a really, really cool way to recognize fans and a really cool way of being a human being. And I'm the first person to rip on celebrities for being out of their mind, which, hint, hint, I'm going to do that here with this week's Asshat of the Week. But if I'm going to dish it, I also have to be able to commend those who are doing at least what I would consider the right thing when it comes to being a decent human being, remembering the Christmas season, and remembering your fans who put you there in the first place. I think it was a really cool thing. When we come back, we're going to get to the Asshat of the Week. We'll be back. Was here tonight and told Obama about the Benghazi confrontation. In the morning he's got to board a flight, got to head to Vegas to campaign for re-election. He thinks of the ambassador along the way and how we put him there to run weapons into Syria. He hears Valerie Jarrett say, hurry Barack, Sin City waits for you. I got a plan to blame a video on YouTube, the same one that I mentioned to the UN and The View. And I said to stand down in Libya. I gotta buy me some time and hope America forgets. Now, let me be clear. We're gonna do a full investigation on this. The Secretary of State Clinton and I would love to answer questions, but at this point, what difference does it make? Gotta go. Hey, listen, when According to Me, Unapologetically Bunny, Real Serious Nonsense, and the Stafford Voice all have back-to-back shows every Thursday night here on the 405,
something magical happens when you put them all together. It's like peanut butter and jelly, cookies and milk, Joe Biden and his hair plugs. I mean, by themselves, they're great, but when you put them together, it's even better. Except for Joe Biden and his hair plugs. I mean, both of those things are awful by themselves, let alone put those together. Yeah, edit that part out.
You're on the 405.
Folks, welcome back. So, we commended a celebrity. I think it's time to rip them apart. What do you say? It's time for this week's Asshat of the Week.
It is time for this week's Asshat of the Week.
If you haven't figured out yet, I have a real big issue with hypocrisy. And when you look at the tragedy that happened in France last week, you look at the murder of people in Paris. Again, we have to understand that the reason why this happened, it wasn't because of the crazy ideology of the savage sand people who feel that it's blasphemy to say anything about anything. But it really was the way they killed those they were so upset with. It was the tool they had, you see? It wasn't that they did anything wrong. It was the thing they used that's really the issue, which, of course, we're referring to guns. And, of course, I'm referring to this week's Asshat of the Week, Liam Neeson. Now, what I find funny about this is this guy has made a career over the last, 3, 4, 5 years of being the guy who's in a very serious film in which I look like a normal guy, but given the chance, I'll kick the crap out of you and kill you, mainly using guns. But then, I have a huge issue with guns. They're awful. They're terrible. Now, what Liam will say is, well, that's fantasy. I mean, clearly, it's a movie. It's not real, but in the grand scheme of things, guns are awful. There's too many effing guns in America, is what this man said. And so, again, it's the same thing Jamie Foxx did. Jamie Foxx has a problem with guns, but yet Django Unchained has him shooting people throughout, 45 minutes of the film is just him shooting people with guns? But, yeah, that's fine. It's a movie. It's okay. Unbelievable. What a hypocritical douche. Liam, it's time for me to be bad cop. And it's time for me to call you this week's Asshat of the Week.
Tune in next week for another exciting installment of Asshat of the Week.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the lights.
Well, folks, that's going to wrap up this episode of According to Me. Thank you so much for being here on the 4-Hour Entertainment Hour here on the 405. We talked a lot of things tonight. I mean, we talked about why the president wasn't in Paris. We all know why. We talked about the hypocritical march that was the Paris rally. We talked about the Seminoles being scumbags. We talked about Taylor Swift being decent, Liam Neeson being an asshat. It was a good time had by all. Thank you so much for listening to the program. Again, glad you tuned in, but this is just like one quarter of the show. We got 3 more hours to go. Bunny's coming up next with Holly Fisher. Make sure you stay tuned. Then Real Serious Nonsense. Then the Stafford Voice. Do not go anywhere. We'll be back next week, faster than you could say furious. And this has been This Week, According to Me. Good night, America.